What's going on, YouTube? I'm back. Good morning. How are you? It is Tuesday, and I haven't had a video in a little while, and I apologize for that. Just been kind of busy, a little bit tough to get a video recorded, but now I'm doing it, and it's going to go up, and I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm excited to be back. Hope y'all are excited to see me. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the Stars. Yeah. But we're not just going to talk about the Dallas Stars. Actually, most of this is actually going to be referring to the Texas Stars, who are outperforming their parent club at the moment and are in the Western Conference Finals in the American Hockey League playoffs, which is awesome. They're up 2-0, so they're 2 wins away from the Calder Cup final, which is really exciting. For anybody that's a Stars fan, you look at that team and you think, man, that's good news, possibly for our future. So kind of want to touch on that, talk about them a little bit, talk about the Stars' potential future a little more. As I said, yeah, this Texas Stars in the Western Conference Finals up 2-0. Standout performer Mike McKenna, the goaltender. He's been absolutely stellar. They've given up 2 goals max in most of their games. They've been just performing incredibly well. And Mike McKenna, while he's never, he's not the young guy, the standout young guy that the Stars are hoping will be the next goaltender for them. He is the veteran presence that they need. So he's been very important, and he's been really good. But you look at some of the young Texas Stars that may not even be in the AHL next year. Maybe they make the jump to the league, depending on what happens with some of the players that we've talked about in previous videos that are on the Dallas Stars right now. So I want to talk a little bit about players like Roope Hintz and Denis Gurianov, guys like that. Maybe Dylan Hetherington, the defenseman. He's played a few games up at the NHL club because of injuries last year, and he looked okay. He was trying to find his feet. So I think Roope Hintz is one of the standouts that I would be surprised if he wasn't an NHL player next year. He's a goal scorer. He's a talented, skilled forward. And quite frankly, the Stars, if they needed one thing last year really bad, it was depth scoring. It was the ability for somebody on the third line to score 15 or more. Someone that you knew could be a stud offensively that wasn't, named Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, or John Klingberg. That's what they needed. So I think they've got the potential for that to happen down in the AHL with the Texas Stars. I think that those guys are kind of proving it right now. So it's really exciting. I'm excited. I wanted to talk about them and kind of give them their justice because the AHL club definitely doesn't get talked about near as much as the NHL club, and I think it's important to look at the AHL team because that can be the team's future. I think it's really great to see their success and be excited for their success. I also think it's, I'm going to kind of move toward the Dallas Stars because we are moving into the offseason. We're going toward the draft. We're going toward potential free agency, things like that. So I want to talk about kind of what the Stars may be looking at in the offseason here in the future, things like that. Obviously, I've talked about it. I think a second or third line scoring center would be incredible, or even scoring winger, scoring forward, doesn't matter. Center, winger, doesn't matter. Not a guy that you feel comfortable with in your own zone playing defense, or that can keep the puck in the opponent's zone for a little while but doesn't really come anything of it. They have that. They have Devin Shore, who to me is a little bit of an underrated player. He underperformed a little bit last year, but I think he does his job really well. But I'm talking about, you go out and you get, I don't know if we're a name that was thrown around a little bit last year as possibly a trade deadline target was Max Pacioretty. Max Pacioretty is a very solid winger, scoring winger, that if the Stars were to trade for, what it were to have traded for last year at the trade deadline, I think he keeps them up. I don't know if they have the collapse that they had if they make that trade. Now, you'd have to give up a little bit. Max Pacioretty has a high price tag, for sure. But I think going after someone like that is reasonable. I think it's necessary to push this team over the edge because the Dallas Stars are in win now mode. They're not in a rebuild. They're not over the hill. They're in win now right now. And the acquisition and free agency last year of Alexander Radulov was great, awesome. I loved it, and he provided a little bit of help. But I said Jamie Benn, Tyler Seguin, John Klingberg. Radulov is in that group, and it was 4 of them. It was those guys. You had players like Jason Spezza. You had players like Devin Shore. You had, these guys that were in your depth that weren't putting up the points that you wanted to. Specifically, someone like Spezza. You really would want him to score more. That's been his game for years. But he's getting older, and he hasn't been that player, or he wasn't that player last year for sure. And I think that's it's almost time. Similarly, I think, this is just switching gears, but I think it's Adrian Beltre's time to kind of stop playing baseball. I think it's Spezza's time to stop playing hockey. I think he's had an incredible career, potentially a Hall of Famer, and I think for both of them, it's just time. It always becomes time for somebody, and they just haven't performed to their level recently. And I think that eventually it just becomes time. I think that's what's happened now. So, you slide Jason Spezza out and you move someone like Roope Hintz in, and he fits, in my opinion, really well into this team. I hope that, with the new coach, with the new coaching staff, they take a serious look at a refresh for some of the guys like Roope Hintz and Dennis Gurianov, who, frankly, under Ken Hitchcock, it felt like never really had a chance to make the team, no matter what they did, because Hitch was a veteran guy. He wasn't a young players kind of guy. He was a veterans guy. So he didn't look at those younger players necessarily as much as he should have. Another player that comes to mind that I forgot to mention, Jason Dickinson. The guy played in the NHL quite a bit last year, but was he really given the opportunity that he needed? Was he really given the opportunity to be the scoring forward that most of us think he can be? I don't think so. I would love to see him maybe move up on the lines this year. Play with a Radulov. Play with someone of that caliber on a second line, maybe. Try it. See what happens, because you need that scoring depth. And when you put someone like Jason Dickinson, who can score, on a line with Roussel, and you put him down on the fourth line with guys that you don't necessarily see score very much, it's hard to expect a lot from him. Also, Brett Ritchie, you hope to see more out of him come next year. Maybe he gets a little bit of a reset, because he simply hasn't turned into the player a lot of us thought he was going to be. We thought he was going to be that second line, high scoring forward, and he hasn't turned into that yet. He's got the intangibles to do it. It just hasn't happened yet. So I'm excited kind of to see where things go in the offseason. I know we've got someone, the third pick in the draft last year, and Miro Heiskanen will likely be in America next year and play at least in the AHL for a little while, and then he'll come possibly to the NHL club after a few games once he gets his feet wet, similarly to what John Klingberg did when he came in. He's been incredible. He looks great, and he looks like the guy that will shore up the decor really quickly. That's one of the reasons, maybe you don't see a Dylan Hetherington next year in the NHL. Maybe Heiskanen slides into that spot and you don't see Hetherington right away. Because it is pretty unlikely, I would suggest, that we'll see Dan Hamhuis in a Star sweater next year, and possibly Greg Pateryn as well. And if both of them leave, depending on how things go, who knows, but if both of them leave, then you could see someone like Hetherington and Heiskanen slide in. Your decor gets a lot younger, and your potential goes through the roof. Hamhuis and Pateryn played out of their minds for a lot of the year. That pairing was maybe the best D pair that they had for most of the year, but toward the end, you could see it. They weren't there. They were gassed. That's one of the reasons they lost, late in the year and didn't hold their playoff spot. They were playing so many veterans so much that these guys were gassed by the time they were done, and they simply couldn't hang on. So I'm looking for the Stars to get younger and improve depth scoring. I think that's what's necessary, and I hope that's what happens. Hope you guys like what you hear. Maybe you agree with me, maybe you don't agree. We can get into that in the comments if you want. I wanted to kind of touch on the Cowboys just a hair. OTAs start today, like this week. And so the Cowboys are getting going with their team practices and things like that. OTAs are often optional. You've got players like Tom Brady that's not participating in OTAs. I haven't heard much about any Cowboys, holding out, not playing at OTAs, so that's good news. You always want everybody playing and practicing as much as they can with the whole team. That's great. I think that you can only improve when you practice. There's not a whole lot to talk about with the Cowboys. I'll keep my eyes on their OTAs, their mini camps, and things like that, and keep you updated. When we talk about the Stars too, the draft is in June. It's late June. I do intend on getting kind of a draft analysis out of some kind on who they might take, what they might do in the near future. So keep your eyes open and look out for that. The Rangers started the series with the Yankees last night. It was not pretty. They gave up multiple home runs, lost pretty handedly, maybe 10-5, I think, maybe worse. But they lost yesterday. I believe the final score was 10-5. Lost yesterday to the Yankees, one of the better teams in baseball. So come to expect that in that situation with how poorly the Rangers have been. But that's probably going to do it. I wanted to kind of make this video about the Stars. Things were happening around there, and I wanted to talk about the Texas Stars and give them their limelight. So I will see you guys next time. Make sure you click like down below if you enjoyed my video, and if you want to make sure you don't miss any more videos, click the subscribe button down below, and click that little bell right next to the subscribe button so you get a notification on your phone every time that I upload a video. My Twitter, my Instagram, my Facebook will be in the description. Follow me, and keep up. Peace, guys.